Okay. Hello, everybody. You're in flexibility class. Flexible hands, right? Let's start with that. Can you be flexible in your mind of what you thought this was going to be? Can you be flexible in your idea of what is flexibility? So that's my first invitation, is to consider flexibility not being like, I'm going to stretch my muscles out like this, like I'm going to pull them, but think of it, yes, as being like these three-dimensional things, and you're going to mobilize and hydrate fascia. And if we think of our fascia and our whole body as a biomorphic system of tensegrity that's filled with water and like snotty stuff, the extracellular matrix is like this, it's like snot. It's not green or yellow, it's kind of like clear. And then our fascia has all these different like ways of being or presenting, like different parts. So there's sort of this cloud-like filmy fascia. And then there's like the long bands of like your IT band, your lower back, big strappy fascia that's huge and sheath-like. And it usually has other layers of fascia underneath that are moving in different ways. So then there's also like the perifascia, which is right next to our bones. So we're going to think of this three-dimensional matrix as being what we want to get moving. So in order to find fluidity and find flexibility, we want to be able to move a little bit differently, maybe move a little more three-dimensionally. So we're just going to do a very twisty, spirally warm up. I'm doing arms, and I'm thinking of like fluid movement in my arms, rippling and waving. And I'm bringing online the idea of my system as one entire matrix, completely connected, that as I spiral and as I move in more three-dimensional ways, it's plumping up. When it becomes hydrated, it's easier to move, right? Dry, crusty sponge doesn't move well. You get that thing all wet and then you can do whatever you want with it. So think of yourself as this system of fascia, nervous system, fluid systems of the blood, the lymphatic, all the things which are working together in a coherent manner. So coherence in your body means the systems are working together. So we're inviting with our mind the whole system to become more coherent. Yeah. So we did sort of a lot of upper body. Let's do the same kind of stuff with the lower body, freeing up each leg, finding your balance on one leg and then the other, freeing up the pelvis. We're going to trust that the parts that need to find stability are going to find stability, and the rest of us, we're going to allow some mobility, so some real freedom. We are going to get into like more old school stretching eventually, but first we're just trying to wake up the system. And one more thing I'd like to offer is that we're going to work with crossing our midline and then opening. So we're getting very expansive in our tissue, but then we're also closing in, really expansive, radiating outward, and then coming in so small you're crossing midline. If we were talking on Laban terms, which I sort of am, we could talk about growing and shrinking with the breath. So as I'm inhaling, I'm opening up, radiating out. And as I'm exhaling, I'm bringing it in, narrowing and closing, or enclosing. And I'm inviting more fluidity in my organs, in my spine, in my fascia. Let's let that go and bring it into midline. So we're going to go into midline, head to tail, just finding fluidity and freedom from your head to your tail. If that moves you around, that's fine. So this is a very free flow way to begin a flexibility class. And we want to think of flexibility being partly about our capacity to adapt to something, not just I can stretch my leg up to there, but the capacity for us to adapt to a situation, the capacity for us to adapt to circumstances. So we're finding this fluency in our body mind, fluidity from head to tail. And we can also think from the center to the edge and from the edge to the center. So we're working with these central center to edge pathways coming in and going out, radiating in different sort of directions. Also letting us come in. Maybe adding some sound. Could be a ha or a or a yeah. I don't know, the yeah is a new one. We started our last class, I think, with a bunch of sighs. So maybe bringing those sighs back online again. So inviting the air quality of lightness and levity into our bodies with that breath. Freedom in the lungs, freedom in the ribs, freedom in the diaphragm. And let's take it into, let's work seated today on chairs, but my chair is not in this room. So let's work seated today on our butts. So starting down on the floor, it could be a cross-legged position for you. It could be, you could also sit like this. If you see babies, a lot of times they're just sitting with their legs straight out from them. So inviting in a seated position that feels comfortable in your body. Yeah, and from there, let's play with, again, fluid movement of the spine. So tail to head. When I think spine, I think of really the whole thing, from my tail to my head. So the whole central column. And if we want to have more flexibility in our spine, we need the stuff that's around the spine also to have more freedom and fluidity. So fluidity and fluency. And we can play with spirals. We can play with circles. Seeing where you start your movement and then where it ends. So we talk a lot about initiation and follow through in movement, like where is it starting? For me right now, it's all starting sort of down in my pelvis and then rippling its way up. And I'm also letting my neck, jaw, and tongue release. So flexibility of being your personality, right? If we're too stuck and rigid in who we are, there's no flexibility. There's not going to be much capacity for change, or it's forced change, and then that is really hard to adapt to. Let's try it with our legs in a more open position. And I want to offer, feel free to stick with your exploration, Michael. I want to offer some movement, kind of walking butt to butt, sit bone to sit bone, letting that ripple up through your spine. As you're doing this, also feeling the sensation of the connection of the back of the leg toward the floor. Oh, lots of yawning. Finding the expansiveness of the yawn. Shake it out for a second, let it go. And let's warm up our back body a little bit more by just pushing up off the floor. So letting your body push up and release back down. I'm feeling the need to do this myself. So I'm going to push and reach and then come down. And then I'm going to switch, push and reach. So one hand's going up, one's going down. I'm getting a spiral and I'm also getting a push. Pushing up, coming down. And I'm pressing into the floor with the bottom arm. And I'm reaching up to the sky with the top arm. So there's our connecting heaven and earth through the arms. Getting a little bit more active, a little bit more blood flow, and a little bit more sort of muscle work. And then let that release and take it down to the floor. Shake out your spine down there on the floor. Let it go. Let your tongue go. Let's take a really easy knee drop from side to side. Letting your lower body spiral. Massaging out your butt and your hips. You're going to take this a little deeper by opening across. So for me, I'm actually feeling the stretch right here in the front of my deltoid and pec more than anywhere else. I also feel it in my back in the same space up here. Like I don't feel a huge stretch in my hips, but this is my body. And my holding patterns, a lot of them are up here. And then come in. And we can think of the holding patterns in our body as systems of intelligence that helped us get to here. Are they always something we want to keep holding on to? I mean, some of them, that's who we are, like in our form. There's not a choice about that. Some things are not, we can't change everything. Well, we can, but we might not be alive if we change it completely. So Yeah, we're going to work with intelligence in how we change our form. I'm going to go with a happy baby here, letting my happy baby have some happy baby freedom. Rolling around, experiencing, oh, I've got these legs. So again, coming from a space of curiosity, as opposed to a space of, I'm going to force my body to do something. Playing with what it feels like to stretch out through my legs, rolling through my back. And then from there, let's fold. Let's just get this going, the opening and closing. So arms and legs working together. So we're body halving. We're going with a homo lateral movement, opening one side, opening the other side, as if we're split down the midline. And then we're going to close onto one side. Open the top half, roll onto your back, close the other side. So we're opening, 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 and then closing, closing, closing. Opening, 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 and closing, closing, closing. That's going to massage out your back. See if you can relax your neck and head. The harder the surface you're working on, the more that's going to affect your fascia. So if you need more cush, if it's too much, and you just know because it's like ouch, 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 ouch. If that does not feel good, add more padding. If it feels good, then just go ahead and leave it. Let's open wide as we go through the middle, stretching open, and then close. So I'm taking a second in there to really think of the inside radiating to the outside. So that I played with that when we first started warming up, inner to outer radiation, central movement coming in and reaching out. And if I, in my mind, open up more, I can get more open. So playing with that idea of opening, finding it, and seeing if you can stretch from the inside to the outside, reaching into the open expanse. So being gentle with it, we don't want to stay there forever. We want to softly and gently move and open. I took a tap class a long time ago, and I remember the tap teacher saying, we started class, she was pretty young, and she's like, we started with some movement, and then she's like, oh, we should stretch. We should definitely stretch. And then she's like, okay, I think we're supposed to stay here for 15 seconds. And it's like, everybody is different. Like, some of us have learned how to instantly go, oh, we're opening up. And like, it's a somatic response, especially dancers. Dancers have learned how to do some crazy things. But other people, it's like, it's going to take more time. And even every day is going to be different. So just understand that the way that our bodies respond to time is not in 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. It's like they have their own way. Open your feet wider than your hips and just internally rotate one leg at a time. Spiraling in. So that should be stretching out your quads. And you're getting that internal rotation at the same time. Internal rotation, maybe a little quad stretch. If you're very hypermobile, you might not feel that stretch. If you dance a lot or do anything with a lot of external rotation, playing hockey, ice skating, dancing, even just bicycling, turning this in and getting this internal rotation will help that fascia become more hydrated. So if we're always moving in the same pattern, the tissue is demanding, one thing is demanded of the tissue. When we start to give it more three-dimensionality, it's almost like we're fluffing it up, bolstering it, and it's going to give it ultimately more strength because we've hydrated, we've moved in these different ways. So then later on, when we want to move differently, it's not a huge, oh my God, what did I do event. Let's roll over onto our hands and knees. And we're going to take one leg back. I'm going to take off my socks. And you might want a pillow if you're on the hard floor, or this might be a good time for breakfast. Coming onto hands and knees. And this is a cat-cow. I'm going to push back through my heel and I'm going to arch and open. And I'm going to open into that. Then I'm going to come over the top of my foot, round my spine, push into my hands and push my leg into the floor. So I'm stretching over the top of my instep. Heel reaches back, Chest opens, looking forward, seeing the world. You can bend your elbows slightly and pull on the floor if you want, depending on how active you want to make this. Push, hollow, and curl. Heel reaches back, arch and open. Push, hollow, and curl. And one more. Heel reaches back, arch and open. Top of the foot, push, hollow, and curl. And I'm letting my foot sickle just a little bit when I go over the top. So I'm not trying to keep it totally straight. I'm getting that stretch over the instep. If you've strained or sprained your ankle, you want to be careful with this. Push back through the other heel. Sole of your foot reaching back, chest and lungs reaching forward. And then over the top of the foot, push with the arms, scoop, hollow, curl. Don't think of this as being a huge muscular scoop and hollow. Just think more of like inner space drawing up. Reaching back, push through your heel, arch and open. And over the top of your foot, hollow and curl. And push it back, arch, open. Over the top of your foot, hollow and curl. And last one. I don't think we did the same amount, but wherever you are is fine. Then we're going to open our feet a little wider, take our butt up to the ceiling. So this is like a downward dog, but you're going to let your knees bend, your hands are wide, and your feet can be very wide. I think I need to turn around so I don't slide. Yeah, if you get the pile of your carpet working with your hands and feet, and there you're just going to bend one knee, bend the other. You can push with your arms. Think of this not as being a position, but as being movement. And it's movement that you're exploring around. So you can play with reaching things up, dropping them down, mobilizing in different ways, shifting your weight in different ways so that you're creating the inner space and you're feeling into what feels good with that. Breathing into it. So when you are stretching and doing more stretching, make sure you're really hydrated, that there is water in your system so that you can, so that your sponge is not getting all dry and crusty. And let's take it down to sit on our butts again. Yeah, always feel free to drink water. Also to pee whenever you need to. And we're going to take it back into an open position here. So depending on your flexibility, you could elevate your pelvis sitting up on something. That's a possibility. You could also bend your knees. So those two things are your options. But we're going to start with, yeah, you can do this with bent knees. Imagine radiating out. So it's again that same idea of stretching from the inside to the outside. As I'm doing that, I am flexing my feet and I'm opening my chest. I can do it with my hands too. And then I'm going to point my feet, scoop my belly in, and just drop my head down. Surrender forward. Radiate out. You can reach with your hands and feet, open, and then point, scoop, surrender. So I'm going to show you sideways what's going on in my body. I'm really actively reaching through my foot, which is I'm pushing out, radiating open. And then I'm pointing, scooping, softening, radiating out. So if this were a yin yang exercise, this would be the yang as we're radiating. And then this would be the yin as we're coming in, radiating out, shining the light, and coming in and softening. Two more. Radiate and reach, open, soften and curl. Last one like this, radiate out and open. If you have more mobility there, you can take it further forward. So this is a great way, if you're working on this inner thigh flexibility, is to arch down and then point and curl and scoop back. So in the arch, you're radiating outward and opening from the inside to the outside. And in the point, you're curling in and softening. So what's happening naturally in the system is this. It's like a cat scrabbling, right? They're spreading out the hand. So we're giving that inner pulse. Let's release that. Bring it in. Bang up and down. Rotate in and out. Take a little walk. So again, you're going to readjust the relationship of your pelvis to your legs. And you're also softening your gut body, ideally. So try not to make this too rigid. Try to make it fluid. And whenever I say gut body, did I remember to relax my neck and tongue? And then from there, we'll take it into a forward fold. In the forward fold, we're going to work with flexing and arching. So it's like you're pulling up and through. And then you're going to point and just pull your waist back and soften. So you're not trying to go forward. You're flexing, lifting the chest, lungs, and heart, and bending the knees. And then pointing, curling, taking it back. Inhaling, arching, thinking of lengthening, head, tail, opening the front of the chest and lungs, and exhale, hollow and curl. Let's start it from the bottom. So start it from your pelvis if you can, letting it move through your spine, and then at the last minute through the legs, chest, lungs, and heart. And then starting again from the bottom, softening, curling, and rounding. Now try it from the head. Head reaches out, moves through the spine, all the way down. And then head softens and curls and rounds and release and let it go, shake it out. So when we start to play with initiation and follow through, we can see what part of my body just naturally wants to start. And that's a great way to begin moving, to work with what feels good in your body. Then once you've figured out what feels good, it's nice to play with what's the other pattern. Like, oh, okay, I liked like coming up from my belly up through my head, and then also going down felt really natural that way. But if I do it this way, it's different. It's fine going out and up. Going down is much harder for me to go down from that. So just tuning into what your preferences are. Let's take our soles of our feet together, maybe kind of far away from you. Hello. And then just a side stretch, opening out through space, gently going from side to side. Hello. And as you're in that gentle side-sideness, feel what your head wants to do. Do you want to look down? Are you looking straight out? Do you want to look up? Just listen in. What is the top of your spine doing? And if you were to say that this movement was initiating somewhere, where is it initiating? For me, there's a couple of places that feel good. One, I like to push off. As I'm pushing off the ground with that bottom hand, the top hand is blossoming up and open. So that would be a very distal edge of the body initiation. It's kind of, I could think of moving from the inside to the outside. That feels harder here. So if I think of working from my pelvis up and out, that's another way. But the push feels really good. There's something for me very satisfying in my body about pushing from side to side. Gathering kitties. Taking it forward and down and just softening into the middle. Let your head release. You can turn your head gently from side to side, thinking of from your fontanelle down through your tailbone, of having spaciousness and fluidity. And then roll it up and come up. And let's do some hip stretches. We're going to start on our backs, taking it down to the floor. This is a really softening, relaxing, releasey version first. So first, as I settle into the floor, I'm just feeling my pelvis. I'm feeling my sacrum. I'm feeling the bones of my pelvis and sort of the bone body touching down to the floor. The bone body is not separate from the rest of my body. It's just easy to find those bony landmarks. Settling down and in, inviting the water in my body to inform the bone, to inform the fascia, to inform the organs and the systems. And I'm going to take one foot and just cross it over my knee. My other foot is still on the floor. From that position, I'm going to let my legs fall one way, and then they're going to go the other way. So falling from side to side. breathing, melting, and softening. I'm letting this really massage out my glutes and rotators. So my piriformis muscle in here, as I roll across it, is getting a nice little massage. I'm also feeling that spiral in my spine. And then coming in, let's change it to the other side, same thing. So very easy to start out. We're going really gentle to begin this, going from side to side. When we go in slowly, we can think of this as tissue prep. So we're prepping the tissue to go for more freedom instead of forcing it into that right away, which, believe me, if I was like warming up for ballet class and I only had a few minutes, I might not spend as much time with this really nice tissue prep. I might be working on the much more sort of mechanical, stretch this out, stretch that out, and bring it back into center. Come back to your first side one more time. And we're going to take the knee of the bottom leg. You can grab around this way. You can grab the top, or you can also draw it in towards you. Breathing into it. Yeah, for me to feel this hip stretch, I kind of need to go with the straight leg version there. And you can play with two things. You can play with curling your spine here or lengthening out your spine. Trying to stay long through both sides of your torso, so you're not inching up in one side. Breathing into it. And then release. Give it a little shake. Rotate your legs in and out. So let the tissue soften up again. And you're going to take the same leg that was just crossed over and cross your knee over your other knee, grabbing onto your ankles and then drawing them down to the sides. So here's the grab. And from there, there's two things we could think about. One, just drawing your knees into your chest. And the other one is staying in kind of a long back and drawing your heels up or your ankles up. Breathing into this. For me, this knees into my chest feels a lot better. So letting it be whatever it is for you today, or playing between the two. And then letting that go and shaking it out. Shake, shake, shake. Let that shake drop all the way down into your pelvis. Soften your organs, soften your spine. Release. And then cross the ankle over the other knee. We already did the side, so we're going to go straight to the pull in. Optional version, grabbing your foot, whatever you need to do in there. Hips are very personal things. And one thing I will often say is that when one part of our body is really flexible, another part is often pretty tight. So my hamstrings are really flexible. My hips are pretty tight. It may be different, for other people. I know people with incredibly open hips and tight hamstrings. It's not that those two things necessarily go together or not. It's just that often flexibility in one area may not be the same in another. Release it, shake it out, let it go. Let that soften your spine. And then cross that knee over the other knee and grab. And again, either pulling it in or dropping it down. Breathing into it. Moving if that feels good. So for me, generally just sitting in a stretch is not as nice as moving a little bit, although sometimes I definitely need to just sit. And then let it go, shake it out, shake it out, shake it out. And we're going to go back to this wide foot version of internal rotation so that we're lengthening the front of the hip flexor again, lengthening the front of the quad. And if you want to take it deeper, you can hook your heel over and just take it a little deeper. From there, you can play with either the internal spiral of this leg or lengthening it down. Or a combo of moving, I'm lengthening it right now, and I'm spiraling it now. Lengthening, spiraling. Release it, switch it to the other side. Yeah, so I'm talking about the leg that is not the hooked leg, but the other leg. If I lengthen, I feel this whole sheath of fascia lengthening out. If I internally rotate, I get a little bit more of this enclosing. And if I play between the two, I can go back and forth with that. And that's what I'm talking about, like that really three-dimensional matrix of fascia and tissue and muscle fiber and all that stuff. When we move it in more three-dimensional ways, we have more access to opening it. Let's shake it out again, and let's go back to happy baby again. Seeing where you are in your happy baby now. And I don't mean where you are in your stretch. I mean, what does it feel like? Where is your attention? What does it feel like in your body? Breathing into that. Let your baby be very playful. Free up the baby. Let the baby be happy. Let the baby be happy. Yeah, and just tune into at what stages in your life were you taught not to move? So many. I'm convinced that one of the reasons that I'm a pretty free thinker is because I had a baby bouncer. My mom put me in the baby bouncer. It was in the doorway. It was like some elasticated bands with a little chair, and I was bouncing up and down all the time in that thing. And then the other thing is that my dad would wrestle with us. So we did rough housing, or as my niece calls it, rough hassling. Roll from side to side, massage out your back. So to me, pretty, I want to say aggressive movement feels good. It's fun. I like it. But we all have different relationships to the movement, and like it doesn't always feel good for me. A certain amount of it feels good. Yeah. And let's flip around, and we're going to come up to standing. Have some water if you have some water. So we're going to do some feet and knee exercises. And I'm going to start with my feet wide. They're about shoulder distance apart. Move the camera up a little bit. And I'm going to circle. I'm letting my feet mobilize as my knees are circling. So the knee is just a hinge. It's just hinging. The idea of the circle is really coming from my bones and muscles of my feet and fascia of my feet and my hips. And then change direction, go the other way. Let your feet really mobilize. Let your toes spread and free up. Yeah, you can do the standing up too. Then we're going to do this. This is an Irene Dowd exercise, I think. I'm pretty sure it's an Irene Dowd exercise. And it's working with our insteps. What we're going to do is we're just going to step through our foot, and then we're going to think of doming up. It's like you're pulling a towel up with your toes. So stretching, I'm doming. Before my ball of my foot lifts, I'm doming as far as I can and then reaching out. If you've seen Terminator 2, and there's that moment where he's walking and it's just, you just see the the metal structure of his inner body, which is kind of like bones, which I hate to use the idea, and I'm really against the man machine business. However, sometimes it's a good model. So yeah, letting your foot really spread out and then dome up. Spreading out and doming up. And then switch it to the other side, same thing. Doming up and drawing in. So I could do it without shifting my weight as well. Here I am, I'm not really shifting weight much, or I can really shift my weight with it. Just tune into those two versions. Try each one and see how it feels, shifting the weight forward. When I shift my weight, I can really spread out my foot and spread out my toes. Let me show you from the front. Let's see. Yeah, I can really spread and then draw in. Spread and draw in. I can feel myself standing on my foot, standing my ground, right? So we're developing, anytime we're working our feet on the floor like this, we're giving ourselves a stronger connection to the earth. We're able to ground ourselves, grounding our energy when we're working with feet, when we're working with the floor. And let's do this. We did this before. Let's just, you're just gonna walk your feet around your carpet. So you're kind of sliding along and giving them, it's almost like you can do it on the floor too if you have a wood floor. Bringing on the neuro feedback so that you're feeling what it feels like to have soles of feet on the floor. And then let's try doing it with, I'm going to back up so you can see me. Let's try just picking up one foot and balancing on that leg. If you feel like that's a piece of cake, try closing your eyes. Shifting whenever you feel ready. Yeah, just seeing it. Woo! If you need to open your eyes, open your eyes. Depending on your age, this will be easier or harder for you, and also your amount of experience with it. One reason a lot of older people fall is because they're so dependent on their visual system for balance. And when our eyesight gets worse and worse, then we don't have the same proprioceptive response happening. Go, Terry, I see you. Yeah, and if you want to, you can also move it around and see, can I balance when I'm not just standing, but things are in motion? Can I play with that? Is that easier? Sometimes it is. Sometimes like the balance is much easier when we're in movement. Nice. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, try taking it forward, try taking it back, feeling into that. So you're feeling like, yeah, one side, try the other side as well. You can try it with your eyes open and with your eyes closed. Don't take it too seriously. Yes. Good. From there, let's take it into a forward fold. So we're working a little bit more with back body opening up. You're going to open your feet very wide, but this is also to free up your spine. You can bend your knees here, but shift from side to side. Let your head drop toward the floor. Take off the backpack of other people's stuff that you might be carrying. Drop that into the floor. Let the earth compost that stuff. So dropping your head, get in the middle, give it a shake. You can do this with bent knees or straight legs. So we're not necessarily going for the hugest hamstring stretch. If you want to stretch your hamstrings hugely, go for it. Yeah, mine are very open, as I've said. So this is, when I do this, it's about the movement. If I really shift from side to side, I can feel the different sections of my hamstring opening up. And I'm trying to free up my head, neck, and spine. Whenever you're ready, bring it into center, roll it all the way up to the top. Coming to the top. We're going to end it with some face stuff. So coming in, here it is. Got my my meditation blanket, which I like to sit on. And so we're going to free up the tongue without hurting yourself, right? You don't need to go like bonkers with this, but something that you can take your tongue and look up and then come back in. Like those little puppets, you pull and something happens. Think of it like that. And for me, the tongue has an expression in my hands also. It wants to go like this. All right, it's this opening. And we've got those, well, we talk about having the diaphragms of our hands, the roof of our mouth, diaphragm in here, what is it? Cerebellum tentorum, there's like one in here, soles of our feet. Then of course, like the pelvic floor is not really a great word for it because it's not a floor. It's not like part of a building or something that anyone's standing on. So, you know, I haven't found the right word for it. I don't know if Liz has one, but yeah, Liz Cook also talks about that. She's like, do you know if she has one, Terry?
I don't know if she has one. I use hammock.
Oh, hammock. Perfect. Yeah, like something to rest in and support us.
And it's got the
Nice.
bowl kind of shape to it.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the pelvic diaphragm is the most alive one of what it is, but it's not quite the same. Like our diaphragm here is a system, is like this big, like a balloon, almost like a wet balloon. And in our pelvic floor, it's a little different than that. All right, so let's go back with the tongue. We're going to do this. Perry Nicholson, who's the chiropractor who I love, who does all these different interesting things, the lymph flush, and then Mary Abrams, who's a continuum teacher. I learned about this with her, and I think we did this last time. It's the tongue circling around inside your mouth. Yeah, and you're gonna hum at the same time. So you'll circle around a couple times one way, the other way. If your tongue decides to meander, better. Like, so the more that we can go into the experience of it and just feel it, the more sort of somatic release and processing we're going to have, more presence with our own animal body and our tissue. If we do it kind of in a more mechanical way, it's doing something too, but it's not the same. It's not as juicy. It's not as yin. So taking it in, we'll do it a few times. If your breath gets tired, breathe naturally, do whatever you need to do. Off we go. The invitation is really to free up the enteric system, the gut body, let it go in and be like, neck, lungs, jaw, very easy. Letting the sound die down. Sometimes it takes a lot for me to make that humming sound. So letting it go whenever that feels right for you. Another thing you can do is take a sip of water and just swish it around, like really give it some time to hydrate. I think brain gym people, there's people that are working with your nervous system also have done studies that when the water's in our mouth, if we don't swallow right away, it sends a signal to our system that we are drinking and to hydrate more. So sometimes we're drinking a lot of water and it's not moving into our system. So if we slow down our process of drinking water, which of course is super hard for me as a speed demon, I like to chug it down. But if we slow it down by swishing it around, taking a sip, that can ground us more in that practice. All right, so TV land, I am going to stop the recording